Welcome to Daily Red Devil. In this episode, we will be focusing on 4 players Manchester United need to sign this summer in order to compete in the Premier League this season. But before we get into that, please smash a like on today's video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. So we're going to start off with the centre-back position, which only feels right with obviously the news coming out last night that Leny Yoro suffered an injury in the pre-season game against Arsenal. Obviously, he came in a couple of weeks ago as the big money signing to replace Raphael Varane. Manchester United still at that point wanted to sign a second centre-back, obviously with a number of players like Willy Camboire, amongst others, leaving the club this summer in that position as it is. But now with Leny Yoro becoming injured, it looks like Manchester United may have to go for 2 signings. But we're going to start with the centre-back position. So the obvious option here is De Ligt, obviously from Bayern Munich. He's available for £42 million this summer. He's apparently handed in a transfer request at Munich and also agreed personal terms with Manchester United. Obviously, De Ligt has worked with Erik ten Hag in the past at Ajax. They already have a good chemistry together. And some of De Ligt's best football was played under Erik ten Hag. So it only feels right for him to come back to the manager that effectively gave him his break and hope that he can relive the form of the past. Now, obviously, there's some injury concerns with De Ligt, but if you actually look at De Ligt over a 7-year period, you add up all of the games he's missed and then divide it by 7, it's only on average about 4 or 5 per year across domestic and international football, which isn't actually too bad. And when you compare him with Harry Maguire has actually missed quite a few more games than De Ligt over the last couple of seasons. So I think this whole injury-prone topic is maybe a little bit of a myth. There are some concerns, but I don't think it's as bad as it is. So 42 million is the asking price. Manchester United have had a bid rejected of 25 million plus add-ons. Manchester United reportedly willing to pay as much as 38 million pounds, including add-ons for De Ligt's signature this summer. So that's the first player that Manchester United need to sign in order to compete. An honourable mention is obviously Jarrad Branthwaite. He is a backup option available for about 70 to 80 million pounds, which is an astronomical amount of money. Manchester United have had 2 bids rejected for Jarrad Branthwaite. The first one was 35 million plus add-ons. The second one was 45 million plus add-ons. Everton remaining strong on their position. Pay the 70 to 80 million or we don't sell Branthwaite this summer. How do you feel about that though? Would you go for Jarrad Branthwaite? Would you go for De Ligt? Who should Manchester United sign as the new centre-back this summer? I'm going with De Ligt. I think he is the best option available on the market for the money. Moving on from that, though, we're moving over to the CDM position. And it feels like this position has been crying out for some love for a number of years. I can't remember the last time we had a good CDM. It's probably been over 10 years, hasn't it? We've had people like Schneiderlin, Fellaini, Matic, and none of them have really lived up to expectations, being honest. So the main option here, I think, is Manuel Ugarte. Obviously plays football for PSG, 23 years of age, had a very good Copa America for the Uruguay national team. Available for £50 million, which, again, is a lot of money, I think. PSG apparently adamant that they will get this £50 million that they're asking for him. Manchester United at the moment have supposedly made a couple of verbal offers but haven't yet found a place where PSG would be willing to sell. The player has agreed personal terms with Manchester United. He's spoken to Erik ten Hag and apparently he wants to join Manchester United because he did really suffer at the end of last season with opportunities in the PSG team. So he's desperate to leave Paris and come to Manchester in the hope that he will kind of relive the form that he had at Sporting Lisbon. Quality player. Is exactly the profile that we need. Very aggressive, very good on the ball, and would slot into our team absolutely incredibly. So he's the main option for Manchester United as the CDM position. Honourable mentions, we've got Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad. He's got a €50 million release clause. He's a very, very good player. Had a very good Euros for the Spain national team. Kind of reminds me of like a Busquets type vibe, like Rodri. You know, he's that very much CDM, Spanish CDM, very, very good player. So he's another option. And then the kind of third choice, the backup option is Youssouf Fofana from Monaco. He is currently available for around 35 million euros, 25 years of age, 1 year left of his contract. So he would definitely be a good option for Manchester United if they fail to land Manuel Ugarte and Fofana. But you can let me know, who would you like to sign in the CDM position? Moving on from that, and I've actually gone with another CDM. So far we've got a centre-back, CDM number 1, and now we've got CDM number 2. Can anybody guess who it's going to be? Sofian Amrabat. I think Sofyan Amrabat is absolutely essential signings-wise. He's available for as little as £10 million this summer. Obviously, he was on loan at Manchester United last year. He didn't really get that much game time, but when he did, I thought he was quite decent towards the end of the season. Is he good enough to start every week for United? Definitely not. But as a backup squad player, I think he'd be a really, really useful addition to the squad, because we have to remember the only CDM we have at the moment is Casemiro. And I think there's massive question marks about Casemiro's future, about whether his legs have gone, whether he's at the speed to be able to play in the Premier League anymore. And obviously there are Saudi clubs circling for his signature. So there is always the potential that later on in the window, one of these Saudi clubs comes in for Casemiro. And the thing is that the Saudi market doesn't close until October the 7th. So their window closes about 5 or 6 weeks after the Premier League does. So we need to make sure we're covered in that position. And that's why I think Man United need to sign 2 CDMs this summer in order to have any chance of competing, especially with the injuries and the amount of games. Like, it's going to be very difficult if we just have Casemiro. But you can let me know what you think about that in the comment section. And then the fourth and final player on my list of players Man United must sign in order to compete this summer is Mazraoui from Bayern Munich. We're desperately crying out for some support in our right back and left back position. Now, the thing I like about Mazraoui is he's versatile. He can operate at left back, right back, and he can play as a CDM. So he can play in 3 positions, and all 3 of those positions we need to strengthen in. Luke Shaw and Malacia are massive red flags for me. They're both injury prone, realistically. And then at right back, you've got Dalot, who I think is good enough to start for United now. But then you've got Wan-Bissaka, who looks like he's going to leave. So Mazraoui comes in and would tick all of those boxes. And the interesting thing with Mazraoui is, obviously, again, like De Ligt, he's worked with Erik ten Hag before. He was at Ajax when Erik ten Hag was the manager, so he'll have worked with De Ligt before. He'll have worked with Antony before. And I do think that him coming in for such a small fee, £13 million, that's what's being reported, would be a no-brainer for us. The interesting thing with him is West Ham already agreed a deal a couple of weeks ago for £13 million. But then the player rejected the move because he didn't want to go to West Ham effectively. He was going from Bayern Munich, playing in the Champions League, to let's be honest, a mid-table Premier League team. And he said, I don't want to go. So it looks like Manchester United will now sign Mazraoui. And Sky Sports this morning were reporting that they are in advanced talks over a deal for Mazraoui. So he'd be my number 1 option at right back. Honourable mentions, I'm going with Dumfries from Inter Milan. He is heavily linked to Manchester United at the moment. There are some journalists, including David Ornstein, saying that apparently Manchester United are considering a swap deal involving Aaron Wan-Bissaka in exchange for Denzel Dumfries. So that's one possibility. And then the other one is Ferdi Kadioglu, currently plays football for Fenerbahce, had a very good Euros for the Turkish national team. Now, the only issue with Kadioglu is he's going to cost you 30, 40 million euros, right? And if you look through the players that I've got on my list already, Manuel Ugarte, 50 million. De Ligt, 38 million. That's already 88 million. Mazraoui, 13. You're up to 111 million. And then Amrabat, 10. So for these 4 players alone, we're talking about 120 million pounds, right? Combined fee across the 4 of them. And then when you add in Xerxes for 34 million and Lenny Yoro for 42 million, you're at around 200 million pounds outgoings in one window. And at this point, we've only sold about 50 million worth of players. Man United usually spend around 75 to 100 million net. So I think this is probably like the best case scenario that we can hope for by the end of the window. And I think if we want any chance of competing this season, even just for top 4, I think we need to make these 4 signings. Otherwise, I think we're really going to struggle. And obviously with injuries and all the rest of it, it could be another difficult season for Manchester United. And that's no fault of Erik ten Hag or Ineos. They're just trying to get rid of an ageing, underperforming squad who are effectively refusing to leave the club. You think of people like Maguire, people like Donny, obviously he's gone now. But there was all of these people, Martial, that they're trying to get rid of and are slowly doing it. And as Jim Ratcliffe said, it might take 2 or 3 windows to get all of this business done. So it's not going to be an overnight thing. But I think these 4 signings are realistic. Obviously, there's some better players available in some of those positions, but this is realistic within the budget that Manchester United are operating in this summer. It would be about 200 million spend, including Lenny Yoro and Xerxes. And then obviously whatever outgoings we get would kind of come off that. So those are my 4 players that Man United must sign in order to compete this season. But I want you to let me know in the comment section, do you agree with my picks? Do you have other names that you suggest? Let me know your thoughts. I always like to see what other Manchester United fans have to say. Thank you very much for watching today's video. This has been Daily Red Devil. Please make sure to smash a like and subscribe on your way out, and I'll speak to you all on the next one. Bye for now.